The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Well, good morning, CHD. Happy Friday. It's time for Doctors and Scientists, and I'm your host, Dr. Brian Hooker, and this is the time of the month that we get to switch roles, turn the tables, invite on our wonderful hostess, I'm not sure what's right anymore, Polly Tommy. Polly, welcome to the show. You get to be moderator today, right?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Very excited about this. We do love our monthly science update in depth. And we have 4 topics for you today. And then we're going to be talking about the upcoming European trip, which is very, very exciting. But first up, can we please have an update on mitochondrial autism and vaccines from the science department, please?
Well, I'm so excited about this particular topic because we're working on a paper that will be released on May 1st regarding the connection between mitochondrial autism and vaccines. Many components of vaccines will damage mitochondria. And remember, mitochondria are the small energy-producing factories. They produce a chemical called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency, or the way that energy is shuttled around in metabolism, in cells, in humans, in animals, in every cellular material, in God's green earth. So when you damage mitochondria by vaccines, then there are mechanisms that will initiate a cascade that leads to autism, especially in the most vulnerable developmental window, which is prenatal vaccines all the way to 3 years of life. So this paper actually breaks that down. We have many components in vaccines that increase oxidative stress. Polly, tell us just in a brief snapshot what Billy's story was. What vaccine caused him to regress, and how did he react?
Okay, so he was not very well on the morning of his one and only vaccine, because in those days, there was only one on the schedule then at 13,
right.
Well, it was 12 months, but I pushed it to 13 months because he was sick with an ear infection on antibiotics. And so he had just the MMR at 13 months old with catastrophic results.
And so the MMR vaccine is a live virus vaccine. There are 3 different live viruses: measles, mumps, and rubella. We know that the mumps component is not an effective component of vaccines, but you're talking about over 100,000 virus particles that are injected at that period of time. Virus particles cause inflammation. Inflammation increases the oxidative stress that mitochondria go through. And what happens is there's a very fragile membrane that mitochondria have that hold them sort of in check. And across that mitochondrial membrane, there's a physical electric charge. There's an actual electric charge that electric charge mediates the production of energy in the cell. It mediates the production of ATP. As soon as that mitochondrial membrane is disrupted by oxidative stress, then what happens is the mitochondria are depolarized. When that depolarization occurs, then you get fragments of the mitochondria that are released, and those are just damaged portions of the membrane itself, portions of the inside of the membrane. Proteins from outside of the mitochondria start to leak in, and then the immune system, not only does it react to the MMR vaccine, but it starts to react to what are called damage-associated molecular patterns. And as that damage occurs, it will cause inflammation to occur even further. That snowballs into more mitochondrial damage. That snowballs into more of an immune inflammatory response. And you get sort of this low simmer of mitochondria being damaged, more inflammation, more mitochondria damage, more inflammation, and then that will occur everywhere in the body. Inflammation and immunity are nonspecific. Inflammation and immunity will go directly to the brain, as will the viruses in the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. You can recover measles virus in the brains of individuals that have received the MMR vaccine. So at that point, the blood-brain barrier is not developing well. Measles, mumps, rubella, aluminum from vaccines, formaldehyde that's used to inactivate inactive viral vaccines, polysorbate 80, which is a detergent. All of these can cause that inflammatory response. All of those can damage mitochondria directly. And when mitochondria get damaged, it elicits what's called damage-associated molecular patterns. These are little patterns that the immune system will specifically seek out, saying, oh, a cell is damaged, I got to clean up the mess. It's sort of the cleanup or janitorial crew. Well, that initiates inflammation. Inflammation causes more damage. More damage then causes inflammation, and you get this cycle, and then it leads to the brain damage that is associated with autism. So that's what we're writing about. Very few people know that it is a response that can happen with a variety of vaccine components, because all of these components cause a significant amount of oxidative stress in the body.
So everything you're describing is the opposite to what we're told. We're told these vaccines are safe and effective, but safe. And everything you've just described explains why our children, and one in gosh knows what, it's way more than they say, have wisdom around the world.
Around the world. We know that in Los Angeles County right now, 1 in 10 boys have autism. 1 in 10. And when you look at the preponderance of evidence, the amount of autism in African American males in LA County is probably around 16%. I just looked at these statistics rolling out. And so that's more than 1 in 10. That's almost 2 in 10 African American males have autism. And so it used to be that for a case of autism to occur, you'd have to be highly genetically susceptible, meaning that your body did not have an adequate mechanism to tamp down all of this oxidative stress that was going on. So it would sustain a reaction through the mitochondria, sustain a reaction through other cellular components, because your body could not effectively handle that level of stress. That used to be somebody that had a genotype that was fairly rare. My son had mutations so bad that the researcher who was looking at mitochondrial autism at the time, Jill James, called me up and said, your son's 1 in a million. You should have never had a vaccine. But the more vaccines that we've added to the schedule, the less that threshold becomes. So, my son had about 12 different mutations that were associated with his ability to tamp down oxidative stress. Now, it's 11, 10, 9, and more kids enter into that category of genetic susceptibility because of the onslaught of all these vaccine components. My son was like Billy. There were only a few vaccines given in child checkups. Now children at 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months of age are getting at least 6 needle sticks.
I honestly don't think Billy would have survived more than that MMR. That took him to another level. This is a difficult question to ask you, Brian, but I feel our viewers really need an answer to this. And I don't suppose you've got the answer to this, to be honest. When Robert F. Kennedy Jr. went into HHS, he said he was going to get to the bottom of autism, and we haven't heard anything other than a bit of Tylenol. We all know Tylenol causes massive problems before and after. What's the problem, do you think? Because we know he knows. So is Big Pharma really that dangerous that he can't come out and talk about it? I don't understand why. Because here's the thing, and I'm not blaming Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at all. I know he's a good man. I just know that every day we sit still, another baby gets killed or ends up like Billy and Steve, and we have to stop this.
Well, I'm thankful that despite this judgment, this northeastern judge, I think it was a district court that overturned, all of the reforms in ACIP, all the reforms in the vaccination schedule unilaterally. I'm encouraged that Secretary Kennedy has still, he's released new guidelines for ACIP membership. Those guidelines do show in the crosshairs advocates that look at epidemiology of vaccine adverse events. Okay, so that's still there. Maybe this judicial activist, Judge Brian Murphy, will try to topple what Secretary Kennedy has done, but he's going to come back. And he has come back, and he's put organizations in the crosshairs, like the Independent Medical Alliance, like the MAPS organization that is doing such great work for autism. Those are now independent stakeholders in the ACIP committee. They don't have a vote, but they can sit in the committee. They can deliberate in the proceedings of the ACIP committee. They can ask questions, and they can participate in ACIP Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices work groups. So these things, there may be some things within the administration that are coming from the White House that might be setbacks. I'm not sure about that. But I know Bobby, and I know that he is going to fight with every fiber of his being for these children. Big Pharma is really, really strong and really, really powerful. God is more powerful than all of it. And so we need to continue to pray big. We need to continue to pray that Secretary Kennedy will be able to make the policy implementations that need to be done, and then he'll speak loudly with boldness. I know that he will not give up on these children. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's going to include cleaning up the mess so it doesn't happen again, and cleaning up the mess so we can take care of the kids that are part of the collateral damage.
Absolutely. Okay, good. Thank you for clearing up that. Right, so second on the list is aluminum adjuvants and autism. You touched on that a tiny bit. Do you want to talk about that anymore?
Yes, we've got a paper that is coming out that will rebut the Anderson paper that came out of Denmark. This paper came out on July 15th of 2025. Absolute fiction, piece of trash. Basically to indemnify aluminum salt adjuvants that are in many, if not most of the vaccines on schedule. These aluminum adjuvants, they're nanoparticles. They get taken up by a cell type called macrophages. Macrophages will ultimately deliver the aluminum nanoparticles to the brain. When they're in the brain, they cause frank brain damage. They damage a cell type called astrocytes. And these astrocytes have been shown to be damaged in the cadavers of autistic individuals. At a rate of about 65% of the cadavers with autism had this particular type of cell damage. Only 5% of the neurotypical controls could they find any such damage. Okay, so we know it's a characteristic of autism. We know that it comes from aluminum salt adjuvants, these nanoparticles in vaccines. So the connection has been made. What we've done is we refuted this Anderson et al. Paper that came from the vaccine developer for Denmark, the Staten Serum Institute. And I think it's important that we overturn, when these pieces of fiction come out that support the pharmaceutical industry that are so blatantly false and fraudulent, it's important that we're swiftly saying, no, this is incorrect, and we expose the faults and the error. My colleague Karl Jablanowski is the one that is the primary author of this particular paper, and we expect it to come out within the next 6 weeks.
I love that Children's Health Defence really standing up to the mainstream outlets now. Mary, with her, she stood up to, I think, the New York Times or whatever the other day, and it's exactly what we should be doing. I love this new approach. So thank you for that. Just a quick question on the aluminum. Do all vaccines have aluminum adjuvants in?
No, live virus vaccines like the MMR vaccine, like the rotavirus vaccine, some formulations of the influenza vaccine. Live viruses can't function in the presence of aluminum. Aluminum will denature the viruses. Outside of that, the hepatitis B vaccine, hepatitis A vaccine, the Hib vaccine, the DTaP and the Tdap vaccines, some of the pneumococcal vaccines, and the meningococcal vaccines all contain aluminum. So children are receiving over 1,000 micrograms of aluminum at their well child visits at 2 months and 6 month well baby checkups. And the safe limit for an infant that age is 18 micrograms. 18 micrograms versus thousands of micrograms of aluminum. So we're exceeding that safe limit. It's no wonder we have so many sick kids.
Yeah, and you know what, Brian? Okay, the MMR tipped Billy over, but we can see him getting sicker and sicker. No autism, right. ear infection from a DTP, Hib, polio, whatever, that we were constantly slamming into him, constant Tylenol, constant antibiotics, and then the MMR just took him over. So he had aluminum in him from those early baby shots. So do we see that in the unvaccinated? Do we see ear infections in the first year of life? I don't.
No. When you look at vax-unvax, and we have another study that's coming out looking at specifically at recurring infections in vaccinated versus unvaccinated children. And overwhelmingly, the kids that are vaccinated, and this is an interesting cohort or interesting population that we're looking at, because we're looking at individuals that are friendly to CHD that have actually allowed us to look at their medical records. So the kids are partially vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Even in that partially vaccinated group, we see twice as many ear infections. We see twice as many respiratory infections. We see about 50% more gastrointestinal infections. These kids that are vaccinated are much, much sicker. And the more vaccines that they get, the sicker they are. Okay, so if they've had 10 or more vaccines in their first year of life, then their rates of developmental delays go up, their rates of asthma, autism, ADHD, all go up. And in this case, in this particular publication, we see many, many more recurring infections. Once you see the health of unvaccinated children, you cannot unsee it, because if they do get an infection, they recover much, much more quickly. Within 24 to 48 hours, antibiotic usage goes down, well child visits go down, simply because these unvaccinated children are just healthier.
Yeah, they are. And I spoke to a mother with unvaccinated children the other day, Brian, and she was saying that a woman came up to her and said, "Your child's got an ear infection." She said no, because she was pulling her ear. She's teething. Right. So we're also over-diagnosing things that are completely normal in children, rushing them to the doctor. By the way, I was that mother, so I'm not blaming anyone. Right. Rushing to the doctor, my child's pulling its ear. Oh, quick, it's a little bit red inside. Let's give it a buttload of antibiotics and a bit of Tylenol. And you're going down a slippery road if you do that.
You absolutely are. Medicines are toxins. The medicines that we give, the more that we give them, the more that we're toxifying all of the organs of the body, including the brain. Okay? There are neurological antibiotic interactions. Absolutely no doubt. There is a strong neurological interaction with Tylenol, acetaminophen, paracetamol, Pamol, whatever you want to call it. There is a strong neurological reaction. We've proved it in our own animal studies, showing, how juvenile rats versus those that did not get Tylenol, we find what's called an adduct of Tylenol, or of acetaminophen, where the acetaminophen actually attaches directly to the proteins in the brain and disrupts metabolism in the cells. So we know, the sicker they are, the sicker they become, because the drug industry has given us drugs that once they're in the body for a longer period of time, 10 days, 14 days, whatever, they are neurotoxic.
All right, let's move on to the HPV rollout. What's going on in the science department there, and what happened with Gardasil 4?
Okay, well, Gardasil 4 came out in 2007, and we happen to have the Florida Medicaid database through 2011. So we thought, well, let's look at the first 4 years of the Gardasil rollout. And what we find is that when we look at ovarian dysfunction in general, that children that are receiving these vaccines at 9 years of age, 10 years of age, 11 years of age, some of them have 5 times as many diagnoses of ovarian dysfunction, menstrual issues, premature menses, vaginal disorders, as well as, other types of genital disorders, as well as a greater level of getting infected with HPV. This vaccine that is supposed to prevent HPV in the first place, we see more HPV diagnoses in the individuals that actually got the vaccine. We've seen time and time again where individuals have had their lives ruined by the HPV vaccine. So we wanted to go back to the original Gardasil 4 rollout, and the facts are stunning. And we made sure that our vaccinated group plus our unvaccinated group, they're seeing the doctors regularly. They're enrolled in the Medicaid system continuously throughout that 4-year period of time. And the data doesn't lie. It really, really does not lie. We see much, much higher levels of these disorders, of the female reproductive system in these women who received the vaccine.
And for infertility as well, with so many reports of the girls have now grown up, they're trying to have children and they're struggling.
Exactly. We don't want anything to damage vital organs and vital organs that are associated in reproduction. And so one of the reasons that we look specifically at ovarian dysfunction and we see such alarming rates of ovarian dysfunction in the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, specifically for the HPV, is because that will affect fertility directly. And we know that right now in the United States, fertility levels are the lowest that they've been almost historically.
So if someone's watching now and they've had all of the Gardasil 4s and they're trying to have children, can you reverse any of these? I'm not giving medical advice, but are there people that have had some success in getting better?
If you suspect that you had an injury from the HPV vaccine, get a reputable integrative practitioner right away. Get somebody who will do integrative medicine on you in order to reverse the damage, because there's a lot of solutions in homeopathy, in chiropractic, in integrative medicine that are not in, your mainstream allopathic medicine. If you go see your family doctor and you say, oh, I have an HPV vaccine injury, they will not know what to do. But I think that, again, aluminum is part of the structure of the HPV vaccine itself. And they use a type of aluminum that had never been previously tested in that formulation. It's called aluminum hydroxyphosphate sulfate. AAHS is a new adjuvant, had never been used before except for in the Gardasil, not for the Gardasil 9 vaccine, the Cervarix vaccine, and they rolled it out, and lo and behold, we have aluminum toxicity. So another thing that they can check for directly with an integrative practitioner is, are they aluminum toxic?
Yeah, it has to be the most injurious vaccine. I don't know. They're all shockingly bad, but the injuries we saw on the bus, the amount of death from that, it's shocking. Please, people, there is nothing good about the Gardasil, whatever number it is, correct?
No, it was, at the time when they rolled it out, it was the worst vaccine that I had ever seen. Now it's been eclipsed many times by the COVID shots, the mRNA shots that really aren't vaccines, they're genetic therapies. But up to that point in time, the worst of the worst was HPV vaccine.
I always wondered if they'd mandated HPV, whether we'd have seen the catastrophic results that we saw with COVID. But anyway, that's another subject, because we are running out of time. We've got something very important to talk to you about. Big European trip coming up for you, Brian, and President Mary Holland. Absolutely.
On April 19th, we jet over the pond. Is that what we call it? Jet over the pond to, we're going to start in Milan, Italy. And then on April 21st, Mary Holland and I get the privilege of testifying before the Italian Senate regarding the inadequacies and, the horrible nature of the COVID response, including lockdowns, including vaccination with an unproven, not a vaccine, genetic therapy. So we'll each get an opportunity to testify and answer questions before the Italian Senate in Rome on April 21st.
And so you're going to the Senate in Rome?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't have a grid for that. Whenever they talk about the Roman Senate, I think about gladiators, and I should probably wear, like a robe and look like Spartacus.
Brian, the Italians dress very chic, very well dressed. The Italians, you're going to have to pack your nice clothes.
Polish my shoes and everything. So, yeah. You got
then where are we going?
Then we are going to Brussels, Belgium. And on April 25th, there is an event called Autism. It's the latest research. I am not going to pretend to translate that from French to English. So it is an autism conference. Mary Holland will be talking about legal and programmatic and policy issues in autism. I will specifically on that particular day be talking about new developments in understanding autism, new science around autism. Then the next day, we go to Paris, France. On the 26th, Mary will be talking again about policy issues and legal issues around the autism epidemic, which is a worldwide phenomenon. I will talk specifically about non-speaking autism and the options for children and adults who are autism who are non-speakers. It will also include Dr. Louis Fauché, who is a good friend of Children's Health Defense and a practitioner in, I believe, in Paris, France. Then the next day, there is a roundtable event. That roundtable event is open to the public, and we will be having an open roundtable discussion. Participants can come from the public. We'll have some distinguished researchers there, like we met Crepeau, who is an aluminum researcher, who will be there. Dr. Fauché will be participating in the roundtable as well. Come one, come all. It's a time to have your voice be heard and enter into the discussion regarding autism specifically, and then also vaccine injury in general. Then we are venturing over to Zurich, Switzerland, and in the outskirts of Zurich, Switzerland, we're going to be at Lake Bodensee, and near Lake Bodensee, there is a venue called Schloss Wordensee, and we'll be talking specifically about Vax on Vax. That's an evening event. It happens at 5:30 in the evening, Central European time, and there then is a dinner, an exclusive dinner with Mary and I, afterwards at 8 p.m. It includes our gracious host, Dr. Maria Humer-Mogg, who will be translating the event in German. I speak broken German. I don't speak good German, but I will do my best. But Dr. Maria will be translating that evening for us.
I mean, you could do your best, but be careful because it's really easy to say the wrong thing. I was trying to do something in France once, and at a bar with some friends, and a dog bowl appeared.
Oh my goodness!
So you've got to be very careful.
I'm sticking with good old, born and raised in California English. That's what we're going to speak while I'm there. And from what I've heard, many speak English, in these countries. And I went to Poland, in 2019. And I tried to get somebody to speak Polish with me, and they're like, no, we love speaking English. We want to speak English with you. So I never got to speak Polish the whole time I was there, even though I only know 2 words in Polish, which is tog, which means yes, and usta, which means lips. That's it.
Well, we have lots of European viewers, so if you're out there and you see them, go run and give them big hugs.
Please do. Please come up, introduce yourself. We want to know all about you, especially if you can translate so I don't order food in a dog bowl.
Dog bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, don't do that. Oh, Brian, it's wonderful, as always, to interview you. It's very important we hear your voice, and thank you for everything you're doing in the science department. It's truly amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Paula. You're so wonderful. We love what you're doing at CHD TV. You're the eyes and the ears and the mouthpiece, so we can get this information out. So thank you so much, you and your staff. Absolutely wonderful. So great to work with. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for this important episode of Doctors and Scientists. Spread the word, spread the word. Make sure that you get us out on social media as well.
Okay, now I'm delighted to be joined by Isabella Yon, and she's going to be talking to us about Children's Health Defence's new movie, Duty to Disobey. Welcome. Good morning, Isabella.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. We are so thrilled to be bringing Duty to Disobey worldwide on Tuesday, June 30th for our worldwide premiere. And we would love for everyone's help to help bring this film to your specific community. So if you email me, I'm sure we can pop it up below, but it's bella@tommyburrowsproductions.com, and I will send you a host kit, which explains in detail how you can source a venue very simply in your community, and then email me with the venue options, and we do all the contacting, booking, and then set up a ticketing page so you can share that with your community. We're really, really excited. We have this already in several different countries across the world, and of course, lots of locations in America. And you can also check the status of movie screenings near you by going to dutytodisobeyfilm.com. We have a little interactive map there. You can see if there's a screening near you and purchase your tickets if you don't want to be a host. And if you don't see your location, that might be a sign that you should sign up to host in your location.
Yeah, and you know what's really exciting about this, I think, is that it's a chance for us all to get together in our areas with like-minded people. So, you can do things like potentially have an after party or somewhere where you can all just group together and chat and discuss the movie afterwards, because it's a very powerful movie, and it's important as well. I mean, you are a military wife as well, so you know the importance, don't you, of the military?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really powerful. It really hones in on just how disgusting our military members were treated during kind of the COVID regime. And, we encourage you also to, even if you're not military and think that this may not apply to you, it does. There are so many people going through this. I know that the firefighters and the police and everyone were also dealing with a very similar discrimination during COVID, and so it's a really powerful film for everybody to view, not just military. And like Polly mentioned, it's a really great way to just gather with your community, meet new people, get them involved in the work that we're doing here at CHD. So yeah, really, really excited. I think it's going to be a very powerful event.
I agree. And one of the most powerful lines in the film is that what happens in the military will eventually pan out to what happens to us that are not in the military. So and these people, they fight for our freedom, so we can sleep in bed safely and our children are safe. And I didn't realize the massive impact of the military until, I have a son-in-law, now in the military. So he's taught me a lot, but also interviewing all these people for the film has really been like another level education. They work so hard.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. And I see it too, again, through my husband, but also just all the people I meet living in a military community. These people really do work so hard. And again, a lot of them lost their jobs and were just treated really, really poorly during this era. And this film really sheds light on that, and it's very eye-opening.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit different than what people might be saying, not another film about COVID. Well, it's not really. What it's about is the people who stood up and said, no, I'm not going to take that unauthorized vaccine jab, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm going to stand firm. And what happened to them for standing firm was horrific. I mean, the level of bullying, and so many Belarus we know that wanted to not take it, and then they were bullied so badly that they just, had to take it in the end because the consequences were so bad. So it's really about what happened to these people and how they were mandated. Remember, they were mandated the COVID-19 shot, which turns out to be completely unauthorized and illegal mandate. It was an illegal mandate. So duty to disobey doesn't mean that we're saying, look, everyone go out and disobey. It was an illegal mandate and they had a duty to disobey that. So it's a very, very powerful film and real education throughout there. So I wanted to bring Bella on really is just to get you all together so that you can get your venues done. Now, they don't have to be in theatres, do they, Bella?
No, and that's a really great point. I think a lot of people are intimidated by the fact that, gosh, to host in a big theatre, that sounds a lot. Or maybe you live in a small town or even a military community that doesn't have access to a big, conventional theatre. I know a lot of theatres were actually shut down during COVID, but this really can look like whatever you want it to look like and whatever would best serve your community. I mean, we have people hosting in American legions throughout the country, which is really great as they are obviously affiliated with the military. Yes, there are some in independent theatres. We've also got chiropractors hosting in their offices, town halls. I mean, really, it's whatever again would serve your community. It can be as small as 25 people at your screening to we have screenings with 300 to 400 people. So again, it can look very different wherever you are. There's no very strict of what it should look like, and we're just interested in getting this film to be seen as many people as possible. So please just message me if you have questions, if you're unsure if a venue would work. We are here to help you however we can and make this as easy and as streamlined as a process as possible. So please contact me. I would love to chat with you about bringing it to your community.
And once again, your email address for people to contact you.
Yes, it's bella@tommyburrowsproductions.com.
And remember, Tommy is EY. So
yes.
tommyburrowsproductions.com, bella@tommyburrowsproductions.com. All right, Bella, thank you so much for being on this morning and telling us about Duty to Spare. Hope we get you back on nearer the release date to tell us how things are going and how the theatres or whether the venues are panning out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And also the dutytodisobeyfilm.com website, you can also contact me via there as well as see the interactive map. So definitely check that out. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think, yes, you can sign up as well for alerts on how the film's going and stuff like that. So make sure you sign up. It's completely free for you to do that. So thank you, Bella, for being on this morning. And we look forward to Mothers to Be coming back very soon.
Absolutely. Yes, excited for it. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
My name is Dr. Elizabeth Rogers.
And what kind of a doctor are you?
I am now a health and longevity doctor, but I'm also a Harvard-trained epidemiologist and researcher.
So, how old were you when you took the HPV Gardasil shot?
I was 18, a freshman in college, and I'll never forget, I was trained by the Western healthcare system, so I believed in everything that I was taught, and I'll never forget my mom calling me one day while I was walking to class, told me that she got a letter in the mail from my university saying that it was required that I go get an HPV shot. And so I went running to student health, pulled up my sleeve, and that's how it all started.
And how many of those shots did you get, the Gardasil?
The Gardasil, I believe there was a series that was
3 maybe?
Yes, and I know for a fact that I would have completed the series because, that's what I thought you were supposed to do.
So you're an obedient person?
Yes, I was, but I'm not anymore.
So what made you think that the Gardasil was a problem? Did you feel ill?
I didn't think it was a problem at all until, honestly, more recently in my lifetime. So right after I got the series of shots, I started getting extremely sick every 3 to 4 weeks. I was bedridden in my dorm room at student health on IV antibiotics because I was that incredibly sick. And as soon as I'd overcome it, the cycle would start itself over again. And I lived through this vicious cycle for years until I was 23 years old when I had a near-death experience. And then I spent the next decade after that battling chronic illness. During that time, I was training as a doctoral student in epidemiology and doing extensive research. And my near-death experience is what really opened my eyes.
Wow.
So what really happened was I had kidney stones, massive kidney stones, which is extremely rare for a 23-year-old young female adult. Kidney stones are typically most common in older adult men. So it was a rare case to begin with, and nobody could figure out why I had this or what the problem was. But what really caused the near-death experience was there was a urologist who was supposed to do a laser lithotripsy procedure on me to remove the kidney stones. But instead he poked a bunch of holes in my ureter wall, left me bleeding internally, and did not tell me about it. And so I went into septic shock and had a doctor save my life after he found my pelvic floor full of blood and urine.
Do you remember anything about being nearly dead?
Yeah.
What happened?
I remember all of it. I remember knowing I was dying and not knowing what else to do. There is a story, I call it my angel story, that is what happened to me right before I had my life-saving surgery. I said goodbye to my entire family because time had passed. After the surgery, the doctor who did this to me did not tell us about it. So we had no idea. My family was watching me just decline in the hospital. And I still believe to this day, this was all this entire series of events was triggered by the fact that I went and got that series of vaccinations. But I didn't connect the dots until years later. So while I was going through this time frame in the hospital where the original surgeon had said, within 72 hours, you're going to pass your stones, you'll feel like $1 million and walk out of here. And I remember thinking, that sounds great. Except 72 hours later, and then days beyond that, I was suffering, declining, and I had shown no signs of passing any stones whatsoever, and they could not get this surgeon to answer the calls or pages, so nobody could understand what was going on. My parents had to file a grievance with the hospital where I was being treated, which took days to process because, unfortunately, we're all subject to the insurance system here in the United States, and it's a nightmare. And it was divine timing. I have no doubt about that. The day that my parents' grievance was accepted, they put a different urologist on my case who rushed me in for a CT scan, said, "You're in septic shock," and told my parents and I that it was a 1 in a million shot that I would survive that situation. And so that if that I needed to say goodbye. And so I remember saying goodbye to my parents, in particular to my brother, because when that was happening, the surgeon who almost killed me decided that he was going to show up and actually pushed my father up against the wall and said, "You must not know who you're dealing with," and threatened my family. And all I remember is knowing that I was extremely close to dying and that I just needed help. And I remember looking at my brother and saying, "I need help."
Is your brother older than you?
No, I'm the oldest of my siblings. Thank you. So after that, they rushed me to an emergency procedure. I was given a palliative care nurse because the assumption was that I was not going to make it. So she was just there to basically hold my hand and be supportive until the end. And we were outside the elevators on our way down to the operating room. And there was a woman standing about 20 feet away from me. And I remember being angry because when you feel that sick, I didn't want anyone to see me like that or look at me. And before I could have another thought, she was right next to my bedside. She asked the transport team taking me to the OR if she could give me something. And I was gripping the bed sheets, and all I remember is feeling myself separate from my physical body. So I was in a really strange state of consciousness. And this woman put her hands on my hands and leaned down and said, "I just need you to know that everything's going to be okay." And when she stood up, I opened up my hands for the first time. I let go of the bed sheets. I was just gripping them because I was in constant pain. And there was a tiny little angel pin in my hand. And to this day, I have no idea how it got there. And when I looked up to say thank you to her, she was gone. And to be honest, I thought I hallucinated the entire thing because I was on so many IV drugs to deal with the pain and prepping me for surgery. So I asked the transport team if this was all real, and they told me it was. And I asked if they could take the angel pin with us. And somehow, some way, against all the odds, I woke up on the other side, still here on planet Earth, and that angel pin was pinned on my pillow. And I knew in that moment that I'd only survived for one reason, and it was because I'm here to serve. And that's all I've cared about ever since that day. And I remember all of it. And I'm actually about to write my first book, and I'm going to write about part of this story.
And what are you doing now? You are really helping people.
I hope so.
You are. Talk about it. Tell people what you're doing.
So now I'm a health and longevity doctor, and I have my own practice. After that near-death experience, I went through a decade and beyond of battling every chronic illness you could possibly imagine, and not just physical, emotional, mental. I battled PTSD, anxiety, depression, every GI issue I was diagnosed with, you name it, and they told me I had it, every label. They told me I had IBS and SIBO and candida overgrowth and slow colonic transit and chronic constipation. And I bounced from doctor to specialist and naturopath and back again, because all I wanted was to feel healthy and whole. I just wanted to feel whole, mind, body, and spirit. And nobody was doing anything except offering me a piece of the puzzle, another prescription, and that wasn't good enough for me. And so I was on this quest to find the one doctor who was going to get it, who was going to help me put the pieces of the puzzle together and help me find wholeness. And I never found them, because eventually I realized that I'd been staring her in the mirror all along. And all this time, ever since, I've worked with dozens of women mostly, helping them find the root causes of their health issues and walk a pathway to heal that's very individualized, because health isn't one size fits all. And what health is to each and every one of us is something different. And I'm really tired of all of us being told that there's some picture of health that we're supposed to be striving to achieve. Because to me, what being optimally healthy and well means is feeling whole. And that happens when your mind, body, and spirit are connected and aligned. And the way in which each of us finds that connection and alignment, the way in which we all feel and find wholeness, is going to be different for every person on planet Earth. And so my mission now is just to help anybody that wants to feel whole again, whatever that means to you, because it doesn't matter what it means to me.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you want to say to the people?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that no matter where you are, what you're going through, what you're going to go through, what I think it's important to think about is that your natural state of existence is being healthy, whole, balanced, and well. And that doesn't mean that you're completely and permanently free from setbacks and challenges. So to me, it's just my job to help you find that connection and realign mind, body, and spirit, so you can just exist from that natural state and trust in yourself, because you know your body, your heart, your soul better than anybody else, no matter what anyone else makes you think or feel. And there's a lot of crap out there in the world, especially on social media, and anything that makes you feel self-doubt or uncertainty is something that it's like it's your intuition or inner voice's way of telling you to just walk a different direction, find a different path, because there are a lot of well-meaning practitioners and health coaches and people like me out here in the world who have the best interest of your health and well-being at heart.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Telling everybody what amazing testimony.
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.